welcome to another edition of the Stafford Report. I'm your host, Cindy Dunnigan. I'm the Outreach Coordinator at Stafford Technical Center. So I am responsible for community outreach to sophomores considering Stafford as their career path, their high school path, and reaching out with middle schoolers as well. Today I have with me...
I'm Kaylin Champagne. I am a Rutland High School student, and I am here doing lesson plans with you. I'm from Education and Human Services over at Stafford.
So Kaylin is the perfect choice for this. Kaylin competed last year in the Vermont Skills USA competition in early childhood education, where she had to present a lesson plan to the judges. And she won a gold medal at the state level, and she traveled with me to Atlanta to compete nationally. So I am basically going to turn this over to Kaylin. She's going to walk us through lesson planning, how that's done, what that looks like, and then she is going to actually teach the lesson. So go ahead, Kaylin.
So if you look over on our poster board, it's kind of difficult to see, but we have a lesson plan. So in Education and Human Services, we do these pretty frequently, but a lesson plan for us is made up of 8 parts. You have your story, your goal, your objectives, your behavioral objective, materials, the before you begin, your motivation and an introduction, and then your method. So your story is just the book that you're going to be reading. For us, it was Groundhog Day. And then your goal is just what the students are going to be doing during the time that you are doing your lesson plan. And then the objectives are what those children are going to complete. So for us, it was to strengthen fine motor skills, to practice following instructions, to enhance social skills, to creatively express themselves through color and material choice, and to recognize that everyone celebrates holidays differently. So for us, we're going to be making Valentine's Day cards. So given the materials listed below, the children will create Valentine's Day cards. So we have red construction paper, pink construction paper, markers, stickers, ribbon, glitter, and glue. So our before you begin is basically anything that you have to do before the children arrive to do your lesson plan. So for us, it was lining a table with newspaper and putting out all materials on the table except for scissors, because working with preschoolers, you don't really want to trust them with scissors by themselves. So with your motivation and introduction, it's just what you're going to say to the preschoolers or the students once they arrive. So for us, it's greeting them with a smile, discussing the story, telling them what the story is about, and giving them or asking them a question about the story before you begin. So for example, do you celebrate Valentine's Day, or have you heard of Groundhog's Day? So the book Groundhog Day, as you can see here, is about a little groundhog who always misses Valentine's Day with his friends because he's sleeping in his den. So this is a book that our preschoolers really enjoy, and I think a lot of kids, no matter the age, will really enjoy it. But it follows the story of all of his friends trying to wake him up so that they can do a little Valentine's Day party and celebrate. So now we're probably going to get into actually doing our lesson plan. So you have a piece of paper with you. So kids can do this whatever way they want. We have, like I said, some stickers, markers, some fun scissors in case you want to do cutout shapes or cut out your card to look differently, and a pencil if you want to use pencil instead of marker. So if you just want to first start by folding it in half, and then you can decide what you want to write on the cover or the front of your card. So for a lot of them, it's Happy Valentine's Day or to Mom or Dad, but they can write whatever they want. So for me, I'm going to write Happy Valentine's Day. What would you like to write?
I'm going to draw a flower.
That's a good idea.
Now, do your preschoolers, do you write Happy Valentine's Day for them and they trace it, or do they know they copy it from a paper?
It depends on the kid, but a few of them can write happy, but Valentine's Day is a pretty tricky word for them. So depending on the age, for 3-year-olds, we usually will dot it out for them and they can trace. But for our older kids, we'll tell them how to spell it. So we'll just go HAPPY for happy, and then we'll spell out Valentine's Day for them if they need it, which they usually do.
And this is an activity that you actually did with the preschoolers at Stafford?
Yes, it is. So if you look over at our real examples, these are some of the ones that our preschoolers did, and a few of them wrote the letters themselves. So for the blue one of our 5-year-olds wrote Mom all by himself without any instruction or any help doing so. As you can see, they really, really like stickers, but these were some of the ones that people in education and human services did. So just happy Valentine's Day with little exclamation points. And then, I hope your day is amazing and day full of love. Have a good day.
What is your favorite part about working with the preschoolers?
Watching them figure out things for the first time and being able to help them learn new things. So for example, we have a lot of preschoolers who come in not knowing how to write like their own name or not knowing how to write happy. And it's really nice to watch them grow throughout the year and watch them, develop and their language skills develop as well.
So at Stafford, when the preschoolers come in the morning, they come in through the regular school hallway and their cubbies are out there. And I see them frequently in the morning. And I'm amazed at how many of them can go down the cubbies and read, or they've remembered, or they know the code. But they can identify every cubby, and they'll point to the name and say, this is Joe's cubby, and this is Anna's cubby, and they go all the way down the line. Even some of the younger ones, the 3-year-olds, really know their friends' belongings and which cubby belongs to who. And I just think that's awesome.
Right now we're working with numbers with them. And so today before breakfast, we all asked them what number comes before 10, what number comes after 4. And pretty much every single one of them got it. But at the beginning of the year, they didn't know those numbers. So just watching that development is really nice to see.
Now you're a senior.
I'm a junior.
You're a junior.
Yep.
What is your plan for next year?
Next year, I'm going to hang out at the high school, get some credits done, but when I graduate, I plan to go to college for an early childhood or elementary childhood education degree. Haven't really decided yet, but I plan to go into teaching.
Okay. Have you always wanted to do that?
For a while, I wanted to be a baker, but as I got more into school, and I had a bunch of teachers, telling me like, hey, you would be a really good teacher. And so one day I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. I'll see if I like it. And so I decided to sign up for the Stafford Pre-Tech that was available through my high school. And I fell in love with the program, fell in love with the few kids I was working with and 2 that I still work with and still see a lot. And I decided that, you know what, I was going to apply, see if I got in. As a sophomore, as a rising sophomore, it was very difficult to get in. I got waitlisted, but then the first day of school at my high school, I got an email like, "Hey, do you want to come to Stafford? We'd really love to have you." And I was like, "Let me tell my dad. Let me ask my dad first." But it ended up working out fine, and I came to Stafford and really haven't been enjoying my time here.
That's awesome. So talk to me a little bit. I know that unfortunately you're not going to be competing at Skills this year. You have a family trip planned, which sounds really exciting. And I know your classmates are asking you, the ones who are competing in your competition of early childhood education are asking you, like, what's it like? What can I do?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that competition and how, because it's long
It's a full day competition, and so you go in, you take a short little test about, not even just early childhood education, but education in general. A lot of the questions are about theorists who contributed a lot to education, or, just about what's the best way to teach a child math, what's the best way to teach a child English. And then after that, you go into a separate room and you have to write a full lesson plan like seen here. And you get a book. You have to fully write out a lesson plan using pen and paper. You can't use computers. You can't type it up. And then you create your lesson plan. You create your example. And then you go in and present it to a panel of judges. And then you just wait for your score.
That must be a little awkward, presenting a child-focused activity to adults.
So in my competition, we don't present to the judges. We usually present to like stuffed animals, or in my case,
So that's less awkward.
Yeah, except in my case, they didn't have stuffed animals. We had to present to standing fans, like the ones that you keep in your living room. So that was a little different, but it worked out.
That's pretty funny. And I know you wanted to compete this year. And,
yes, I did.
And they didn't scare you off or anything.
No.
So you're going to go to college.
Yeah.
And So interestingly, you came to pre-tech. So previously Stafford had a block-long opportunity for 9th and 10th graders to kind of come and check out a single program for a single quarter of the academic year. Next year, we are starting our new program called Tech Exploratory, which is an all-day program for sophomores. And what they're going to do is a series that lasts through the whole year of 2 to 3 week long project-based learning, where they're going to learn a little bit about all of the programs that we have at Stafford. So I know, for example, in their construction unit, they're actually going to build a small wall, and they're going to learn about the safety and the tools and how to cut wood and measure and create a small wall. And then later on, they may use that wall to figure out how you would wire an outlet. They'll do a unit that covers cosmetology. They'll do a unit that covers the Education and Human Services program. So we've had some great response to that. We actually have current 9th graders visiting with that instructor this week. It's part of their application process as they come in, and they're going to spend the day, do some hands-on activities. They'll get a tour of the building this afternoon. So we're really excited to be starting this brand new program for 10th graders. It's replacing what we did in the quarter-long single block format, which was successful for the students who knew what they wanted to do. But this is more for a student who doesn't really know what they want to do, who still maybe wants to be a baker and a teacher. So this is just going to expose them to a variety of careers through our 13 different programs. Do you think you would have been interested in that if it had existed?
Probably. I think I would have tried it out just to see maybe there is a different career that I didn't really think about. But I'm glad that I got into Education and Human Services and I'm there. You know, it's such a great community, and it's something that, like, it's really important to me and I hold near and dear to my heart. But it's nice to have a community like that.
Yeah. We just finished our application process. So acceptance letters have gone out to students, and we're getting ready to host our signing night, where our students come in and kind of sign this like letter of intent that yes, they want the seat that was offered to them. So you didn't have a chance to do that because you were waitlisted.
I was waitlisted, yeah.
And some families out there maybe have that waitlisted letter, and Kaylin and many other students would raise their hand and say, yes, I was waitlisted too. And things do change. And they change right up till the first day of school.
Yeah, right up until that first day.
Do you stay in program all day?
I do not, but I know a few people who do. But because I'm a Rutland High School student, Rutland High School students tend to have their classes over at the high school since we're connected. So I will spend my morning over at Rutland, and then I'll come over to Stafford at around 9 o'clock, 9:15-ish. I'll spend the day there, do lunch there, and then I'll leave at 1:57 to go back over to Rutland. So I'm majority of my day at Stafford, but I have a few points where I'm just at Rutland.
Okay. And do you work or?
Right now I do not work, but as a second year in Human Services, we do get paid for our time in preschool. And so usually after I get out of school at around 3:10, I'll just walk down the hall and spend my time in preschool until preschool closes at 4. And so I'll get some extra time in there. But preschool right now over at Stafford is basically my job.
Yeah, so that's busy enough, especially when you're preparing for college and you will be entering into that whole college essays and letters of reference and applications and the Common App and all of those things. So what's your favorite thing about being a Stafford student? You're a Rutland student, you're going to graduate from Rutland. What is it about Stafford that you really enjoy?
Definitely the community and the teachers we have over at Stafford. Just being able to talk to somebody who wants to go into the same field of work as you do. But even talking to somebody who doesn't, but they also have that same like, oh, I know what I want to do. I know this is the career I want to go into. I'm determined and I am ready to do what I need to do to get to that that career, and also having teachers who understand. For example, our program instructor, she's very understanding. You know, it's nice to have those teachers who are like in your field, want to do what you did, like wanted to do what you want to do. It's nice to have that sense of community and that sense of understanding.
And that's what I tell students who apply. I say, if you get accepted to Stafford and you come into a program, the cool part of that is that you walk into a room and everyone's interested in what you're interested in. Mm-hmm. So you already have this common connection. Most of our programs end up like little families.
Yeah.
They're all looking out for each other. And Kaylin's been very involved in a lot of things outside of skills. Yeah. And I find that it creates these bonds because we do take students from all over the county. So yes. From, Poultney and Otter Valley and Mill River, and I won't name them all, but all over the county. And they come together, and sometimes it's the first time you've ever met them, and you've never seen them before, but they do end up being some of your best friends.
Yeah, I made 2 of my best friends who are from Otter Valley from just being in Stafford and going there every day and just talking to these people who wanted to do the same thing as I do, and I now consider them to be my best friends. And it goes back into that sense of community and, finding people who like the same things as you.
What advice would you give to the first year students who are just going to be coming in and doing their signing night, and if you had a minute to take the mic and give them a piece of advice about starting at Stafford, what would that advice be?
Have fun and don't stress about it. Like I said, everyone at Stafford is so understanding. Don't be like, oh, what if I don't make any friends or this and that? You are going to find your people. I went into Stafford my first day being like, all these people are from different schools. I've never met any of them. This isn't right. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And by the 3rd week, I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I have to go to Stafford next block, and I get to see my friends, and I get to see my teacher. So have fun. Don't be worried. Just treat it like it's a fun experience and that you're going to be learning a lot from it, and it's going to be enjoyable.
That is good advice for any student, not just a Stafford student. If you're just entering high school, you're just entering middle school, or you're going off to college. Yeah. This is my advice to you. When you go off to college, Kaylin, have fun and don't stress about it.
Don't stress about it.
I have finished my card. I drew some flowers.
It is so pretty.
And a sun. And I actually wrote a note to Kaylin, so I'm not going to show it to her. I'm going to give it to her after the show.
This is mine.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Put a bunch of little hearts on it. But like I said, our preschoolers, as you can see, really like stickers, and so our bag is kind of empty. It was full at the beginning of February. And
how does the Groundhog Day book end up? Do they get to wake up their little groundhog friend?
So by the end of the book, so they wake up the groundhog, and he's all grumpy. Like my cave is so much warmer. It's so cold and chilly out here. So they try and get him to do a bunch of these activities. He's not really enjoying them, but they eventually, get him to do some stuff. But by the end of the book, the groundhog is awake because it's, the end of March. Except the rabbit is now busy getting ready for Easter. And so they're like, hey, we should all go hang out and have a party for St. Patrick's Day. But rabbit is busy painting all the eggs. And so all the animals now have to try and get rabbit out of his hole to come do a leprechaun party and a St. Patrick's Day party with them.
So I have a question about the lesson planning. I know you write a lot of these lesson plans throughout the school year. What's the hardest part of it? I would think that the motivation in the introduction is probably fairly easy in the method, right? Because you already know how to make a card, so you're just going to write out the steps so that everyone understands the process. But the objectives?
Yeah. The objectives are kind of difficult because you have to do something different for each of them, and so having to really think about what does this help is really important, and it will really help you do those objectives. My last lesson plan, I had my preschoolers make little cardboard pizzas out of paper plates and little paper scraps, and for my objectives, a few of them were strengthen cutting skills, to enhance gluing skills, to understand different cultures, because People eat pizza a lot of different ways around the world, and so just some of those. And you have to think about it from all angles too with the objectives. You can't just think in like this linear path of thinking like, oh well, they'll be cutting, so it strengthens cutting skills. But you also have to think about what are they learning from the book as well. So for, like I said, they were learning about different cultures from the book. They were learning what goes into making a pizza. But the objectives are definitely a little more difficult, and also finding inspiration after you find a book, or finding a book after you find inspiration. So for a lot of us, we'll spend like the first half hour of our block that we usually do. So usually it's about an hour and a half that we have in the morning to work on these when they're assigned. And some of us are of course at co-op, which is a work-based learning, and the first 30 minutes a lot of us will spend looking on Pinterest, looking on Google Images, being like, oh, I like this idea, but how can I make it my own and make it different, and how can I find a book that goes along with this?
What's your favorite book so far?
My favorite book that I've done for a lesson plan, it's probably this one, just because it's such a cute little book. But my favorite book that I've just read in general to them is, I think it's Sick Day at the Zoo, or something like that. But it's our preschoolers' like favorite book. Every time I pull it out, they're always like, I want to read it, I want to read it, I want to sit with you and read it. And I'm like, all right, well, I can only have a few of you over here because our reading corner is not the size of the classroom. So
I would say that it sounds like through your experiences at Stafford, it has kind of cemented for you that education is the pathway that you want to take.
Yeah.
You may not have settled on an age group yet, but you have experience working with these 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to seeing where you end up. And who knows, someday maybe you will come back to Stafford and take over the Education and Human Services program. All of our instructors do come to us from the field that they're teaching in. They have to have experience in that field, which makes our instructors, as you said, they're very empathetic. They really understand the trials and tribulations. They understand, that things can be stressful, that it can be, some of our careers are hard on the body or hard on your knees. And so I think that's great. And I am so glad that you were able to take time away from your classes today to come down here with me and do this fun little activity. And this is an activity that any of you could do at home with your children, with your grandchildren, with your next door neighbor's kids, or just do it for yourself, because it's always good to go back to something simple. I don't consider myself much of a drawing artist. I do some other art, but it's always fun to just kind of play around with these materials and just enjoy the process, even if when you're done, you're like, it looks like somebody much younger than I made it. I really thank you again for putting all this together. This is not generally what she would do for a lesson plan assignment. The papers are, but all the rest of this were samples for our audience here to show off the process that our students are going through as they're learning about education and human services and working in our preschool and co-oping at some of the schools around us or child care centers around us. My history is in child care, actually. I worked in a child care center for 14 years. So I have some empathy for you. Some days it's just noisy. Yeah, this morning was that. This morning was definitely a just noisy day. So there's a lot of excitement with preschoolers. And again, Kaylin, I'm so glad that you came with us. Look forward to our next episode of the Stafford Report, which will be coming to you soon. Thank you.